afternoon, students. Welcome to EAM1501, Early Mathematics 1 for children in the early foundation phase in early childhood education. This module consists of a total of 5 study units. So study unit 1 consists of the theoretical knowledge that informs us about early mathematics and provides us with an overview of the module. So now we'll be looking at what is the importance in mathematics, which already have a place in the early years of a child's development. The main focus here will be looking at why should we be looking at teaching children in preschool mathematics, because they're going to learn it at school and in primary school. So now it's important, and we highlight the important aspects of it and the theories behind why it is important, that basic studies have been done, and the findings that they have found that children that have had this early development in mathematics tend to prosper more than those that have not. In study unit 2, we'll be looking at how to support learning in early mathematics. In this unit, you'll be introduced to guidelines for the development of babies, toddlers, and young children, according to the South African National Framework for Children from birth to 4 years of age. In the environment that we live in, the environment plays a crucial role for children as they learn mathematics. So the kind of environment that we create should consist of 2 main aspects. That is the psychological and the physical aspect. And these aspects are going to be discussed in Unit 3, where we look at how to structure a learning environment that nurtures mathematics in the early years. In study unit 4, we're going to explore the structure of the content areas in early mathematics, how to plan your lessons and how to deliver the lessons across, and that's the content from the South African National Curriculum Framework for children from birth to 4 years of age. Lastly, in study unit number 5, we're going to focus on the knowledge about children development and early learning. You will also get an overview of indigenous resources that can be used in teaching early mathematics. So there'll be a play as a foundational principle to inform the practice of early mathematics that forms part of the study of unit number 5. This is how the assessments for the module are going to work. First of all, these are formative assessments, meaning that they count towards your year mark. Because this module is a continuous assessment module, it requires that you continuously complete the assessments and be watchful of the announcements for the dates when the assessments are due. So you'll be looking at when the first assessment, which is a quiz, it will comprise of Unit 0 and Unit 1. Unit 0 should not scare you. It is a unit that's simply an introduction on how the whole program of early mathematics works, how you should submit, what are the rules and protocols when engaging with UNISA. So now, the first assessment will have a weighting of 9%. The second assessment will be a written assessment of which you have to submit online before the due date, and that has a weighting of 25%. The third assessment will be a quiz, which comprises of information in units 2 and 3, and that has a weighting of 8% towards your final mark. The fourth assessment is a written assessment, and that comprises also again of unit 2 and 3. It's like a reinforcement of the quiz, and that comprises of 25%. The fifth assessment is units 4 and 5, which is a multiple choice, and that has 8% weighting. And again, a written assessment to make sure that what you've answered in the quiz, because it's a multiple choice, you do in fact know. We've also backed it up with a assessment number 6 that again reinforces units 4 and 5, and that has a weighting of 25%. And then lastly is the elective assessment, which is the 7th assessment. So now, if you have completed all 6 of the assessments, you do not have to complete assessment number 7. It's only for those that failed to submit one of the written assessments during the year due to illness or unforeseen circumstances, then they still stand a chance of having one of the 1, 2, 3, for assessments to be handed in, meaning that should you have written assessment 1, assessment 2, assessment 4, and but missed assessment 6, the 7th assessment will form as part of your 6th assessment that you'll be adding as an elective. So now when we look at the units that we looked at, early mathematics, again, I'm just going to recap. On the first one, we're looking at the theory, informing us about mathematics in the early years, how to teach it, what backs it up, and what are the findings regarding teaching mathematics for early students. Unit number 2, again, is speaking about how to support learning in mathematics. Number 3 is about the environment that you create. Number 4, the structure of the content areas that you'll be teaching. And lastly, the knowledge about child development and learning. So now this is how you should organize your time for this module. First of all, you need to organize your study time. In the study time, I'm going to recommend that you give yourself time to master the study units, and that should comprise about 20 hours. If I look at the overview, in the study unit, you have to gain a sound knowledge of all aspects of importance in mathematics, which have a place in the early years of a child's development. You need to look at the learning outcomes because those are going to guide you as to what is going to be assessed in each of the different assessments. You should be able to, on completion, evaluate different definitions of the concepts of early mathematics. You need to be able to explore different theories, concepts, and principles of early mathematics for young children. And you also need to critically reflect on theories, concepts, and principles of early mathematics for young children. So now when we look at how we teach mathematics to young children, first of all, we begin with the belief system of the teacher. The belief system of the teacher influences how children perceive mathematics. If the teacher themselves is not confident, does not like the subject, and that gets put onto children as well, and as they learn, they also develop a dislike for mathematics and a negative attitude towards it. So once we look at pedagogical knowledge, this tells us how should I teach mathematics? That's pedagogy. Then we look at the knowledge of learners, cognition. How do learners learn mathematics? It's important for you to understand that you should teach mathematics in a manner that allows learners to learn the mathematics. Don't teach it in a manner that works for you, but it should be rather be focused on how learners or young children absorb or understand mathematics, and that is the manner that you're going to use in teaching mathematics. You also need to have a knowledge of mathematics. You need to know what mathematics is, what mathematics should you teach to young children. So now the teacher's belief, again, I've said influences how they will be teaching, which will in turn have a direct influence on what mathematics the children learn and how they will learn mathematics. The teacher needs to get to grips with the aspects of mathematics that are relevant to learners from birth to 4 years. So now the big question that we ask ourselves is, what do you think they need to know in the early years? First of all, you need to ensure that all teaching is based on sound, context-specific knowledge. So when many early childhood teachers are reluctant to facilitate the learning of mathematical concepts, those basic skills that will lay the foundation for the future in mathematics are lost along the way. They don't realize that mathematics plays a major role in the young child's everyday life. At the end of the day, mathematics teaches children how to make sense of the world around them by developing their ability to calculate, reason, and solve problems. It enables children to understand relationships and patterns in both numbers and space in their everyday lives. For years, teachers have known that if children know a variety of skills before they begin preschool or kindergarten, they have a better chance of success at school. These basic skills are called concepts, and children need them so that they can understand the more complicated parts of mathematics and other school subjects. Young children are naturally curious creatures. So they need to learn about mathematics. And this makes it much easier to teach them about the wonders and necessity of mathematics in their lives. They need to be exposed to mathematics as part of their everyday experiences, and parents can provide them with the words and activities that will allow them to explore mathematics. An example of this is when the parent is folding laundry. You can ask your child to sort out the laundry with you. That means the socks go into this box, the t-shirts go into one, and the pants go into the other. And then ask questions such as, which pair of sock is yours? The next thing that we need to understand when teaching mathematics is what children should have mastered before entering school. This means that before children leave the kindergarten or the early creche that they'll be attending, they need to have grasped these specific skills, because mathematics exploration in children in early years is related to their immediate environment and is based on a sound foundation of concrete experiences, meaning that things that they do see and touch. Mathematics teaches children how to make sense of the world around them by developing their ability to calculate, understand relationships and patterns in both number and space and in real life situations. It also helps with the reasoning and problem solving. If we use games in and outside the classroom and in the play area, this reinforces the practical concepts which have been developed previously, such as counting, for example, if they hop on one leg for a certain number of times, by touching different objects, they can count out loud, or by matching or finding objects that are alike or the same. In such a game, the children can count or match blocks or household items such as plates. By teaching young children mathematics vocabulary, the following will become clear to them. One, that maths has to do with relationships between objects, for example, big and small, how many, how much, etc. So the children explore these relationships through classifying, ordering, numbers, measurements, space, and time. Children in the different age categories may be at different levels of development with regard to mathematical concepts. Therefore, the concepts have to be introduced in an age-appropriate manner. By using concrete objects and experimenting with them, the children will develop an understanding naturally, and this makes them understand abstract mathematical concepts much easily. It's important to bear in mind that there are different learning styles that children will be using. So the theory and models that we follow when we look at how to teach mathematics. In the early childhood development, there have been efforts that have been established by various models for early childhood education. These models are programs that guide the planning and implementation of the curricula in early learning centers through the years. They are based on specific views of how children develop and are grounded in theories such as behaviorism and constructivism. So the reason for the use of different theories in teaching children, why do we use different theories and not just focus on one? It's because each theory has a specific benefit, pros and cons, and they also have disadvantages. So there are various definitions of the periods in a child's development. Since development is a continuum with individual differences in a period of development starts and ends, because the optimal development of children is considered vital to society. It is important to understand the social, cognitive, emotional, and educational development of children. Increased research and interest in this field have resulted in new theories and strategies with specific regard to practices that promote development within the school system. In addition, there are some theories that seek to describe a sequence of states that compose child development. So in the table below, the theories and models are explained. Let us first look at the theory of constructivism. What is constructivism? Constructivism is a learning theory. This learning is active and it is constructed. So learners build on previous knowledge. We look at people are actively making associations in order to be objective in learning. So there is new learning is compared to prior knowledge. So what do we get from constructivism? First of all, we got that from constructivism, we've got the theory designers or makers or writers, and the main ones that we'll be focusing on is Piaget, Vygotsky. Another interesting one is Dewey, Vico, Rorty, and Brunner. When we look at constructivism, we look at what is it not, what are the characteristics about constructivism, and what are the things to remember. So first of all, what is constructivism? It's based on background knowledge. So we look at how to connect the new knowledge from the old. So constructivism is student-centered or learner-centered or child-centered. Children learn from what they previously have learned from their homes, with their families, and they build onto that. It is not teacher-centered, and the skills are not learned in isolation. When we look at constructivism, we see that the main theme around constructivism is that they learn through collaboration, working together as a group with the teacher. So the things to remember is that you start with finding what is relevant, use interdisciplinary exploration, and develop hot tasks and use primary sources. The first father of constructivist theory was Piaget. Piaget's theory argues that there are two major principles that guide the biological development and intellectual growth of children that help them to survive in a specific environment. These two principles are adaptation and organization. So the learning process, according to Piaget, is the adjustment to the influences of the environment. There are two mental processes that drive this adjustment, namely assimilation and accommodation. Children need to think in a very different manner than adults, of which they do, and children are active and do not need motivation from adults to learn. They construct new knowledge as they move through different cognitive stages. According to Piaget, the long-term objective is therefore to develop the child's entire personality. The second theory that we look at is Vygotsky theory. Vygotsky believes that knowledge is constructed through social interaction. So he speaks about social constructive theory, and this gives a high priority to language in the process of intellectual development. He suggested that children use play as a means of social growth and to interact with one another by using role play and language. So the difference between Piaget and Vygotsky, which you might be asked in an assessment, is that Piaget, for example, believes that children learn about the differences between temperatures by perceiving them. And then children can feel that an object is hot, and then they realize that they cannot touch it. Similarly, the properties of objects, such as texture, shape, function, etc., are learned through experiencing them. This is their beliefs. However, Vygotsky, on the other hand, believes that language is the main tool for children to develop. This is developed through social customs, and they are learned not from experiences, but from other people. There's a logical mathematical knowledge in the construction of maths in young children. Example, using seriation and classification. This is only acquired by interacting with physical objects. So that is the end of our theories. And when we have that, it means that, remember, for unit number 1, we looked at what this whole module is about. So we looked at the theories. Those are the main ideas that you need to understand when it comes to theories. We're looking at what the module is about, how to submit assessments. You're going to receive announcements, and each of these announcements are going to inform you as we go along as what will be happening. There are also going to be discussion forums that I suggest we all participate in. And if there's anything you need to ask on the platform, other students can also answer as well as myself. I will be answering the questions on whatever challenges that you may be experiencing, or any questions that you might even think that is silly is going to be helpful to another student who was afraid to ask. There's an open door policy in this module, meaning that you should contact me on the email address provided on the website or the module site, and I will respond accordingly. As soon as you start familiarizing yourself with the unit of early mathematics, you will see that the lessons are going to be posted online as we progress each lesson and each assessment. Be watchful of the dates because there are closing dates that are associated, and once you've missed the date, it means that you've missed an essential part of your marks that count towards the end of the module. So this is just an introductory lesson, and I look forward to seeing you and working with you as we proceed through the module. Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Mampane, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Thank you.